The royal family is becoming increasingly unstable day by day, and the royal family is becoming divided. The reason, Camilla.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage.
The royal family has faced many moments of turmoil, but nothing could have prepared them for this. Behind the closed doors of the palace, whispers of discontent turned into a storm as one decision sent shock waves through the monarchy. It was an announcement by Camilla that no one saw coming, one that challenged long-standing traditions. Stop calling Camilla Queen Consort. She is the Queen. Disregarded promises made to the late Queen Elizabeth II and set the stage for a bitter internal war. The royal household was left divided, stunned by the audacity of what had just transpired. Even the most loyal supporters were at a loss for words. The shocking announcement, Camilla's bold and unapologetic verdict, just days before King Charles III's coronation. Queen Camilla reportedly summoned top royal officials for what was expected to be a routine discussion about the upcoming historic event. Instead, what unfolded behind those closed doors would change the course of the monarchy forever. According to inside sources, Camilla walked into the meeting room with an air of certainty, one that few had seen before. Those present barely had a moment to react before she delivered a stunning proclamation, one that immediately caused unrest in the room. The officials, some of whom had served the crown for decades, exchanged uneasy glances, their faces betraying their shock and concern. The weight of Camilla's words settled heavily in the air. This was not just a simple change in royal protocol, it was a declaration that flew in the face of centuries-old tradition. More importantly, it was a direct contradiction to the late Queen Elizabeth II expressed wishes. For years, the palace had carefully crafted a narrative regarding Camilla's role in the monarchy. Now, in one swift move, she had torn that narrative apart. The moment of truth, Queen Consort is gone. Goodbye forever. In a tense moment, Camilla made herself clear. She no longer wanted to be known as Queen Consort. From this moment forward, she would simply be called Queen. The declaration was as bold as it was shocking. When Charles and Camilla married in 2005, their union was met with intense public scrutiny due to Camilla's role in the breakdown of Charles's first marriage to Princess Diana. To ease public tensions, Clarence House made a formal assurance at the time. Camilla would not adopt the title Princess of Wales out of respect for the late Diana. And when Charles eventually became king, she would be known as Princess Consort, not Queen. This compromise acknowledged Camilla's place beside Charles without elevating her status to full queen, thereby not overshadowing Diana's memory or provoking public outcry. However, over the years, this stance subtly shifted. In February 2022, Queen Elizabeth II gave her blessing for Camilla to be called Queen Consort upon Charles's succession. But now Camilla is no longer satisfied with that. The title Queen Consort still implied that her position was secondary, and Camilla wanted full recognition. She wanted to be simply the Queen. Opposition and outrage. The battle begins. The response was immediate. Senior officials, including those deeply loyal to Queen Elizabeth II, were the first to speak out against Camilla's decision. Some reminded her of the official stance that had been agreed upon years ago, the very promise that had been made to both the public and the late Queen. They argued that this sudden shift would create unnecessary controversy and damage the monarchy's already fragile public image. But Camilla was unmoved. According to one insider, she listened to the objections with an expression of thinly veiled impatience. As the room erupted into debate, some officials attempted to reason with her, pointing out that the title she was discarding had been carefully chosen to respect the legacy of Princess Diana and to avoid backlash. Her response. But Camilla had already made up her mind. She was not asking for approval, she was informing them of a decision that had already been made. The official confirmation, Camilla's title is set in stone. Despite the opposition, Camilla got her way. Following the coronation, the official royal website quietly updated her title. There was no public announcement, no grand declaration, just a simple but definitive change. Camilla was now listed as the Queen. With this, Camilla had sealed her place in history. Goodbye forever, Queen Consort. Word of Camilla's announcement spread through the palace like wildfire. Some were in disbelief, others were furious. But one reaction stood out above all the rest, Princess Anne's. And, the late Queen Elizabeth II's most steadfast defender, wasted no time in making her thoughts known. She was livid, seeing Camilla's decision as a complete betrayal of their mother's wishes. What followed was the beginning of a deepening rift between Anne and Camilla, one that would only intensify in the days following the coronation. And wages war against Camilla, a betrayal of tradition. From the moment Camilla's title change was made official, Princess Anne was furious. She viewed it not just as a departure from tradition, but as an outright betrayal of her mother's legacy. Sources inside the palace describe Anne's reaction as one of cold, unwavering anger. She was not one to stage public outbursts, but her displeasure was made known behind closed doors. The tension finally boiled over in private at a post-coronation gathering. It was supposed to be a moment of celebration, a time for the royal family to come together in unity following the official ceremony. Instead, it became the setting for one of the most direct confrontations in recent royal history. Camilla was overheard making a remark about finally being recognized as queen. Whether she meant it as a joke or a statement of fact is unclear, but the effect was immediate. Princess Anne, who had remained largely composed up until that point, finally snapped. In a room filled with high-ranking officials, Anne reportedly delivered a line that left the entire gathering in stunned silence. "You're not the queen, just the king's wife." This was not the first time Anne and Camilla had clashed. Their relationship has long been chilly. Indeed, Princess Anne never fully warmed to Camilla, even as other members of the royal family gradually accepted Charles's second wife. And has historically kept her distance from Camilla, maintaining only the bare minimum of cordiality. Royal biographers have described their interactions as frosty. So what's the cause of the tensions between them? The root of the tensions, Anne versus Camilla. The animosity between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla is not a recent development. Their differences stretch back decades and are rooted in fundamental contrasts in personality, values, and ambitions. While they have managed to remain civil in public settings, those close to the royal family know that beneath the surface lies a deep and growing divide. Anne's dedication versus Camilla's self-promotion. One of the core reasons for Anne's resentment toward Camilla stems from their vastly different attitudes toward duty. For Princess Anne, the monarchy is a responsibility, not a privilege. She has dedicated her entire life to royal duties, often taking on some of the hardest and most demanding engagements without complaint. She has never sought public attention for her work, nor has she been concerned with popularity. To Anne, service to the crown should be about duty first, personal ambition second, or not at all. Camilla, on the other hand, has been accused of prioritizing her image over her responsibilities. When she first entered the royal fold, her reputation was tarnished by her past relationship with Charles, and since then she has worked tirelessly to reshape public perception. Unlike Anne, who embraces the hard, unglamorous side of royal work, Camilla has been seen as someone who carefully chooses her appearances and engagements to suit her public persona. Some royal insiders suggest that Anne sees Camilla's calculated public rebranding as a form of self-promotion rather than genuine service to the crown. This fundamental difference in their approach to royal life has made it difficult for Anne to fully accept Camilla as an equal, let alone as queen. To Anne, true royalty isn't about image, it's about duty, discipline, and putting the monarchy above personal gain. Anne's directness versus Camilla's manipulation. Another key difference between the two women is their drastically different communication styles. Anne is known for her blunt, no-nonsense approach. She speaks her mind without sugarcoating and has no patience for palace games. If she dislikes something or someone, she makes it clear with no room for misinterpretation. Camilla, by contrast, has a reputation for being more strategic and calculated in how she navigates royal dynamics. Unlike Anne, who directly states her opinions, Camilla often works behind the scenes, subtly influencing decisions and relationships within the royal family. Sources suggest that Anne has always been wary of Camilla's ability to quietly maneuver herself into positions of power. Some within the palace believe that Camilla has strategically built alliances within the royal household, ensuring that key figures support her rise in influence. Anne, who values honesty and directness, reportedly resents what she sees as Camilla's manipulative approach. To her, loyalty to the crown should be straightforward and untainted by personal ambition. The contrast between Anne's upfront style and Camilla's more careful, behind-the-scenes tactics has led to mistrust and tension. Anne reportedly believes that Camilla's rise to power has been carefully orchestrated rather than earned through duty and sacrifice. Camilla's power struggles, a threat to Anne's influence. Perhaps the most explosive source of tension between Anne and Camilla comes from Camilla's growing influence within the monarchy, an influence that Anne finds deeply concerning. Historically, Princess Anne has been one of the most influential women in the royal family, acting as one of Charles's closest and most trusted advisors. However, with Camilla now at the forefront as queen, some fear that Anne's role is being diminished. Anne reportedly believes that Camilla is amassing too much power too quickly, and some palace insiders have even suggested that Anne sees Camilla as actively trying to sideline her. If Camilla is pushing policies and changes that deviate from what Anne believes is best for the monarchy, then she poses a serious threat to the structure of the royal family, at least in Anne's eyes. Reports suggest that Anne has become increasingly vocal behind closed doors about the dangers of Camilla holding too much power. She is concerned that Camilla's influence over Charles could lead to decisions that weaken the monarchy's stability, and she is determined to protect the crown from becoming too centered around Camilla's personal ambitions. What began as a cold and distant relationship between Anne and Camilla has now escalated into a quiet but undeniable war. The deep-rooted conflict, a history of betrayal. The tensions between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla are not just about their contrasting personalities or power struggles, they are also deeply tied to historical wounds and unresolved betrayals within the royal family. The past decades have been marked by painful scandals, shifting loyalties, and moments of perceived disrespect that have left a lasting impact on their already tense relationship. Few events in modern royal history have been as scandalous as the Charles-Camilla-Diana love triangle, a painful chapter that Princess Anne watched unfold firsthand. Charles and Camilla's romantic history dates back to the early 1970s, before he even met Diana. While their relationship ended when Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles, they rekindled their affair while Charles was still married to Diana. This revelation not only damaged the public's perception of the monarchy, but it also caused personal heartbreak for Diana and their children, Prince William and Prince Harry. Anne, a staunch traditionalist, never approved of the way Charles handled his personal life during this time. But more than that, she saw Camilla as a destructive force within the family, someone who had contributed to one of the greatest royal scandals of the 20th century. The breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage wasn't just a personal failure, it was a public disgrace that threatened the monarchy's reputation. As someone who has spent her entire life defending the crown, Anne could never forget that Camilla had been at the center of it all. To Anne, Camilla wasn't just an outsider who married into the royal family, she was a woman who had once brought scandal and shame to it. This resentment has never truly faded, and when Camilla was eventually accepted into the royal fold and given an official role within the monarchy, Anne reportedly saw it as a direct insult to everything the institution was supposed to stand for. The aftermath of Diana's death, Camilla's lack of sensitivity. Diana's tragic death in 1997 shook the royal family to its core, but it also left lingering wounds that never fully healed. Anne, like many senior royals, was deeply grieved by Diana's passing. Despite their differences, she understood that Diana had been a devoted mother to William and Harry and had played a major role in modernizing the monarchy. In the immediate aftermath of Diana's death, the royal family struggled with public criticism over their response. But what truly infuriated Anne was Camilla's quiet but persistent presence in Charles's life during this time. Even as the world mourned Diana, Camilla remained a figure lurking in the background, and her relationship with Charles was slowly but surely being legitimized. Reports suggest that Anne viewed this as inappropriate and deeply insensitive, especially considering that Diana's sons William and Harry were still coming to terms with the sudden loss of their mother. For Anne, Camilla's growing presence in the royal family so soon after Diana's death felt like an insult to the memory of the Princess of Wales. When Charles and Camilla officially rekindled their relationship and began appearing publicly together, Anne reportedly viewed it as premature and disrespectful. The royal family was still working to rebuild its public image after the Diana years, and Camilla's growing visibility only reignited the controversy. Anne never approved of how quickly the family moved on from Diana's legacy, and she never forgave Camilla for her role in the pain that had been inflicted upon Diana, William, and Harry. Anne's concerns about Camilla's influence over Charles go beyond past grievances, and has long been wary of Camilla's influence over Charles over the years, and has witnessed firsthand how Camilla has slowly but steadily gained more control over royal decision-making, often shaping how Charles approaches his role as king, and has always been one of Charles's closest confidants, offering advice and guidance based on her deep understanding of royal traditions. But since Camilla's entry into the royal fold, some insiders claim that Charles's decision-making process has shifted, with Camilla playing a much larger role than Anne is comfortable with. Anne reportedly believes that Camilla influences Charles's stance on certain policies and royal reforms, steering him in directions that do not always align with the traditions their mother upheld. Sources suggest that Camilla has pushed for certain individuals within the royal household to gain power, sometimes at the expense of people whom Anne trusted. Perhaps most concerning to Anne is how Camilla's presence may be affecting Charles's well-being. With Charles's age and health now becoming a larger concern, Anne reportedly believes that Camilla's constant push for more power may be adding to the king's stress. For Anne, loyalty to Charles does not mean blind support. She has always prioritized what is best for the monarchy over personal relationships. If she believes that Camilla's growing control is harming Charles's leadership, then she sees it as her duty to step in and oppose it, and had watched in frustration as Camilla's influence within the monarchy expanded. However, her decision to drop the title of Queen Consort and insist on being simply the Queen was the final straw, and confronts Camilla, the breaking point. After weeks of growing tension, Princess Anne finally confronted Queen Camilla in a moment that would mark the peak of their long-standing animosity. The confrontation was not only inevitable but also deeply personal. According to sources that spoke 4 minutes ago, and had remained relatively quiet in public, choosing to voice her concerns behind closed doors. But when it became clear that Camilla had no intention of backing down, and knew that diplomacy was no longer an option. The confrontation reportedly took place in private, away from the public eye, but its impact was felt throughout the palace. Anne, never one for unnecessary theatrics, was direct and unyielding. She made it clear that Camilla's actions were a blatant betrayal of Queen Elizabeth II. This is not what she wanted, and is said to have told Camilla. Camilla, however, did not waver. Having fought for decades to gain public acceptance and secure her place in the royal family, she was not about to backtrack. She stood her ground, refusing to acknowledge Anne's outrage. "My verdict is final," Camilla reportedly declared. Though no further details have been leaked from the confrontation, one thing became clear in the aftermath, and was not going to let this go. The royal family was now facing an internal division unlike any seen in decades, and the conflict between Anne and Camilla had officially escalated from quiet disapproval to open defiance. William joins the fight, a strategic move against Camilla. Following Anne's explosive confrontation with Camilla, tensions within the royal family continued to escalate. Prince William, though initially uninvolved in the direct confrontation, could not ignore the growing discord within the monarchy. As someone deeply committed to modernizing the institution, William viewed Camilla's recent moves with increasing concern. Though he had always maintained a measured and diplomatic approach, William was no stranger to the underlying tensions surrounding Camilla's role. Since his mother's passing, he had seen how the monarchy had been forced to navigate the complex and controversial narrative of Camilla's presence. Now, with her sudden push to discard the title of Queen Consort and assert herself as simply the Queen, William's patience was wearing thin. For William, this was not just a debate over titles, it was about the fundamental direction of the monarchy. He had long championed a vision of a leaner, more modern royal family, one that focused less on outdated traditions and more on public service, transparency, and relatability. His goal is to shape the monarchy into an institution that reflects the values and expectations of a younger generation, a generation that had grown increasingly skeptical of royal extravagance and hierarchy. Camilla's insistence on embracing a more traditional, authoritative queenly role is in direct conflict with William's plans for the monarchy's future. While William has slowly worked to scale down the royal family's senior roles, Camilla is asserting herself as a central figure, positioning herself as a visible and powerful matriarchal presence within the institution. This did not sit well with William. He had already begun taking steps to reduce the monarchy's reliance on a large roster of working royals, believing that a slimmer, more focused royal family would be more in line with modern expectations. She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. In his view, Camilla's growing dominance contradicted this shift, especially as she attempted to carve out a position of prominence that had never been part of the original plan. To curb this, William has opted for a subtler approach, one that involves gradually reducing Camilla's significance within the institution without making any overt moves against her. His strategy includes focusing attention on other key royal figures who align more closely with his vision. Princess Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, is one such figure. Well respected and without controversy, Sophie is quietly becoming a more prominent royal presence, particularly in public engagements. The more Sophie and others like her take center stage, the less necessary Camilla could become. It might be a prelude to the end for her. What comes next? Camilla's isolation and the fight for relevance. With both Princess Anne and Prince William firmly opposing Camilla's growing influence, the question now is what happens next. The monarchy, which thrives on unity and tradition, now faces an internal divide that could shape its future. Camilla has never been one to step aside easily. For years, she fought for acceptance within the royal family and the public. And now that she holds the title of Queen, she is determined to maintain her position. However, with Anne's open resistance and William's quiet strategy to shift the monarchy's focus away from her, she is at a crossroads. If Camilla continues to assert herself, she risks further alienation within the royal household. Her push for more influence has already caused noticeable friction, and with Anne and William unwilling to support her rise in power, she may find herself increasingly sidelined. If she chooses to step back, she might still retain some degree of status, but it would come at the cost of her long-fought ambitions. Compounding her difficulties is the fact that Camilla's allies within the royal family are limited. While King Charles has always supported her, his declining health means that he is increasingly relying on others for guidance. With Anne and William playing key roles in royal decision-making, Camilla may find that even Charles's influence is not enough to secure her place in the monarchy's future. Beyond Charles, Camilla has few true allies among the younger generation of royals. Prince William, the future king, is focused on modernizing the monarchy, a vision that does not align with Camilla's more traditional approach. His wife, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has kept a polite distance but has never been particularly close to Camilla. Even the youngest royals, like Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, have little connection to her, further emphasizing her growing isolation within the family. One thing is certain, this struggle is far from over. Whether Camilla fights to hold on to her influence or chooses to step back, the coming years will determine how she is ultimately remembered, as a central figure in the monarchy's evolution or as a queen who, despite her title, found herself increasingly overshadowed. What do you think about Camilla's verdict? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.